This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
We are all about fashion and rescue here on Bark and Swagger. And today's show is for our rescue lovers, supporters, those working in the trenches. Chris Roy is a fellow podcaster with a show called Animal Innovations. He highlights others who've done innovative things to help rescue animals and animals in general. He also has used his IT, his tech background, to create this amazing platform for strays, for animals in need, that he describes as like a Match.com meets Uber. And I'm very, very excited that he's here with us today. You are listening to Bark and Swagger on Pet Life Radio, and I'm Jody Miller-Young, your host. So we're going to take a very short break. I know we haven't gotten started yet, but we're going to take a very short break from our sponsor, Keep the Lights On. And when we come back, I'll introduce you to Chris. So grab that favorite beverage, get comfortable, and we'll be right back.
Take a bite out of your competition. Advertise your business with an ad in Pet Life Radio podcasts and radio shows. There is no other pet-related media that is as large and reaches more pet parents and pet lovers than Pet Life Radio. With over 7 million monthly listeners, Pet Life Radio podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms, and our live radio stream goes out to over 250 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, Odyssey, TuneIn, Stitcher, and other streaming apps. For more information on how you can advertise on the #1 pet podcast and radio network, visit PetLifeRadio.com/advertise today.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Bark and Swagger on Pet Life Radio, and I'm Jody Miller-Young, your host. I am really, really pleased to have, I'm going to call him a rescue hero, Chris Roy, on my show today, to tell you about, #1, the podcast that he created called Animal Innovations, and then to talk about this incredible platform and new things that he's adding to this platform all the time that help animals in need. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Jody. Thank you. I really appreciate the intro and coming on.
It is my pleasure. I'm so happy to have you here because, as I said, you're doing incredible things, and I want to share that. Let's dive in with Animal Innovations.
Sure.
And then we can segue into what you're doing in the rescue space that I definitely want to get out there for any shelters, rescues listening, because this is for you. Okay, so the Animal Innovation Show, it's my understanding that it highlights top innovative ideas, people doing very innovative things in the animal welfare space. And that space is broad. It can be wellness. I was recently a guest on your show talking about that. It can be about the shelter rescue space. Tell us more about the show.
Yeah. So, the idea of the show was just what you said, Jody, was to feature people that are doing anything that's helping animals, right? So I always tell people, I'm like, it's products, it's services, even just ideas, even if it's not to market yet, if it's helping animals or the people that love them, that's what the show is about. And I've been so honored to be able to feature some of these people, a lot of startups, a lot of products, a lot of really cool stuff that's going on with nutrition for animals, different types of food. I've had many different veterinarians on that, all sorts of innovative, cool things that they're doing with different products. And things like they're mapping out cancer in our animals. And it blows me away, all the great stuff that people do. And they're united by a common purpose. It's a passion. I will say the best part about this show is that so many of these people, it's not like they are big companies. They are people like you and I, that they encountered a problem, usually with their own animal. There's usually that backstory, and they decided to fix it. And for many of them, it was the first time they've ever built anything, invented something. It's their first step in the entrepreneurial journey. So I'm so excited because I get to share their story, get to learn about what they're doing, get to share it with the world. That's really what it's all about, is trying to bring that to our viewers and listeners that, hey, these are people that are doing innovative things for animals.
It's inspiring, really inspiring. I mean, mapping cancer in our animals, that is just incredible. That one alone is pretty amazing. But is there a guest that you've had on the show that also really stood out for you?
There's been so many that have stood out for me. It's, because I think, so I'll give you a couple examples of the products that really just caused me to pause and go, that's like really cool. I mean, the mapping of the cancer, is a great example, right? So the worst thing any pet owner can hear from the vet is your dog or your cat has cancer. And so what these guys do is your vet basically takes a biopsy, right? So gets that, sends it off to them. They run it through their program and develop a specific genome plan, treatment plan for your pet. So it's not like, hey, your pet has, liver cancer. All right, here's what we're going to do. It's literally, Rover the dog's liver cancer. Here's the indicators. So your vet now can get more specific. And I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's a great example. There's another product, Vet Guardian. So, when your animal has to have surgery or they go to the vet, right, they have to recover. Well, and so afterwards, when they're coming out of anesthesia, the vet has to monitor, their body temperature, and they have to monitor their pulse and respiration. So they stick all these things all over them. Well, these guys have used, how like you can test temperature with a thing, like on a forehead, or test your grill, right? Like it's an infrared thing. Well, they've developed an infrared device. So you can put this device outside the crate of the animal, right, in the vet's office, and it monitors this stuff, sends it to a dashboard. They've got alarms and stuff programmed into it. So if the animal, like their body temperature starts going down, or the respiration or heartbeat, and I was like, that's so cool. Because the comfort of these animals in their worst time, right? Like they're already unhappy. They already don't feel good. They're already away from mom and dad. And now you got somebody crawling in the cage, sticking these things all over you and constantly checking on you. Like, I was like, that is just like so innovative. There's another product where it was like, using your mobile phone essentially connected to a microscope. And again, these things that you just kind of go, where did these people come up with these ideas? So there's been some stuff that's really practical. We've had, like I said, many different kinds of food products, different services. I love what people are doing, particularly around dogs, right? They're building out these concepts where it's like a multi-use place where it's like you go and you have beers and dinner with your friends and your dog's playing outside. And, you kind of go, these are things that are really changing the lives of our animals. And it's so much fun to talk to these inventors and people and just go, why did you come up with this idea? And where do we go next? Because there's just so much yet that we can do. I interviewed a lady actually this morning that has created an engagement device for your dog. So it's like, you go to work and it's not just, the dog can learn. Essentially, it's through the television, it dispenses treats. She's got multiple cameras. So it's tracking, like, are they in the zone, and are they sitting like they should? And she's got all these ideas for how they can desensitize dogs to scary sounds, fireworks, thunderstorms, the garbage truck.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool.
Yeah, it just goes to show how much dogs are viewed, and cats, but especially because there are more dog owners than cat owners, are viewed as part of our family, as our kids, our furry kids, because people who have those same feelings about animals, who are brilliant and innovative, are coming up with these incredible ideas to make their lives better. It's this whole thing with the engagement. I'd love to talk with you about that more after, but their brains, it's so important to keep them engaged. We know this, right? Just like people, If you don't use it, you lose it, right? So it's just a really beautiful thing. How long has the show been around?
So I launched it in January of 2021. So I'm just about to 150 episodes. We started last year. For the first few months, it was once a week. And then very quickly, I had moved to twice a week. So we're right at that cusp of about 150 episodes, and they're still coming in. And that's what gets me so excited, is just all the stuff that's happening. And if I can play some small part in just helping to raise awareness, bring people that knowledge, right? and helping them. It's the side benefit of this is the networking. I love being able to introduce them. I'm like, oh, you got to meet this person I had on before, and making those introductions, because the collaboration and the partnerships that these people can do, just who knows where they're going to take it.
We're stronger together. I love that too. I totally get it. First of all, where can people listen to the show?
Sure. It's on all the major platforms, right? So it's on, you get it through your Apple, your Google. You can get it if you go to doobert.com/podcast, right? You can view all the episodes and listen to it there. But yeah, pretty much on your favorite podcast app. You can see it if you want to watch the video. We have it on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We've got it everywhere, right?
Good.
LinkedIn.
So it shouldn't be hard to find.
Yep.
Wonderful. So I want to get to talk about this platform that you created. So what we'll do is we're going to take a short break from our sponsor. But when we come back, stick around, because you're going to learn about this very, very cool platform that helps maybe that rescue animal that you adopted. It helps these animals who need us most. So refresh that beverage and we'll be right back.
Molly, here's your dinner. Zeus, that's not your food.
Don't let that happen to your precious cat. Elevate your cat's eating experience with the Cat Tree Tray. The Cat Tree Tray keeps your cat's food off the floor and conveniently located on the cat tree. It's the perfect way to eat. It's a beautiful wrought iron tray that easily attaches to your cat tree and keeps dogs and other critters out of your cat's dish. A must for multi-pet households. There's a 6-inch tray for large bowls and a 4-inch tray for smaller bowls. Purchase your Cat Tree Tray today. Go right now to cattreetray.com. That's cattreetray.com. CATTREETRAY.com.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back. If you've just joined, you're listening to Bark and Swagger on Pet Life Radio, and I'm Jody Miller-Young. We're here today with Chris Roy, who is innovatively developing these wonderful platforms. He's got a great podcast to help animals and to help animals in need. So, Chris, I think you might agree with this. Most of the people listening today, they support shelters, rescues. Many have adopted rescued animals, but a lot of them may not think about how they've gotten from point A to point B, from where they were to a shelter or a foster. And talking about innovation, you are a rescue hero. You created this very innovative platform that you liken to Match.com meets Uber for the rescue space. I want to jump right into Doobert. And first, since Doobert is a bit of an unusual name, tell everybody where it came from.
So Doobert was actually the name of a cat. It was kind of one of those names that morphed. I mean, I had a cat named Jean-Luc, like Star Trek. And so Doobert's real name was Q, which was a character on the show. And I figured out really quickly, when you go to the vet and you tell them the name is Q, it's this whole dialogue. Q what? Q, C-U-E, the letter Q. Oh my goodness. Right? You kind of just, but Q kind of morphed into Qbert. If you remember, there's a video game back in the 1980s, I think it was, that was this, video game. And Qbert, kind of morphed into Doobert. And the name stuck. And of course, then we had Mommy Bert and Daddy Bert, and everybody in the house was a Bert. And yeah, and Doobert was he was a cat that I rescued from a farm. He was, as I like to say, wasn't the brightest cat, but he was an old soul. And he just loved to snuggle and lay on your chest. And I would say he would echolocate. So he'd be upstairs and you'd hear him, meow. And I'd be like, Doobert. And he'd meow again and go a few steps. And then he'd cry again. I'm like, Doobert, like we're down here, right? And he would just keep doing that until he
Follow the Doobert.
Yep. So I could think of no better way. I mean, I had to let him go after 17 years. And then when I was building this, I could think of no better way than to, tell his story and, name the platform after him. So it's an easy to remember name and it's got a great story behind it.
Absolutely. And the platform is comprehensive. So, kind of in a nutshell, give my listeners an idea of what the purpose of Doobert is.
Yeah. So the best way to describe it is it's kind of like a volunteer Uber and Airbnb, right, for rescue animals. And then to your point, Jody, it's got a match.com for the shelters. So the quick backstory is, I mean, there's about 4,800 shelters, right? So picture a physical facility across the US. And as you can imagine, there's like a supply and demand problem. When a shelter has too many animals, they only have so many choices, right? They can either get those animals out through adoption to fosters to another organization, or unfortunately, they end up euthanizing, which is obviously what we're trying to avoid. And there's a lot of volunteers, we call them Dooberteers, across the country that volunteer their time to do transport. But the problem is, so let's just say you were trying to move a bunch of animals from Florida to Massachusetts. And, most people are not going to drive, I don't know, that's probably a good 15, 16-hour drive straight through. So they create what's called a rescue relay transport. So one volunteer to the next, to the next. And there's no software, or there was no software until Doobert, to coordinate this. And so that's what I essentially developed. That was the first module that we came out with. So now volunteers can sign up. They put in their zip code and a radius of how far they're willing to go. And the system does the work. So when a rescue or shelter needs to transport an animal, they just say, hey, we're going from Florida to Massachusetts. The software breaks it down into manageable legs, automatically notifies the volunteers, and manages the sign up. And the idea is to, the best way I can tell you how the impact is, they call them transport coordinators, the people that are, planning these transports. And one of the more seasoned ones that I worked with told me, she said, Chris, before Doobert, I could do 3, maybe 4 transports a week, right? Trying to coordinate where these animals are going. And she said, after Doobert, I can do 15. Wow. And I said, that's exactly the point, is that you're going to keep saving more animals, right? But I just want to make you more efficient. And so over the years, we've added more functionality to make it easier for the rescues and shelters to contact each other. We added a foster management. So that's kind of like the Airbnb part is, you can now create a foster profile for, what your household is like. Do you have kids? Do you have dogs? Do you have cats? Like your profile. And then we make that information available to the rescues and shelters so they can reach out to you and say, hey, actually, Jody, we have this cat, we have this dog. Can you, you said you'd be a fosterer. Is this a fit? Yeah. And so what we're trying to do is, make it easier for volunteers to get connected with these organizations and vice versa. So it's been a labor of love. It's grown over 8 years, and I'm really excited to just continue to bring technology to this industry.
And you're making a difference, as is, indicated by what that transport coordinator told you. Now, another passion of yours is flying, aviation. And that really was what showed you the tremendous need that you ultimately filled. Tell listeners about that.
Yeah, because people will say, how did you get into this? I didn't really know much about the rescue space myself. One of our friends ran a German Shepherd rescue, and she said, hey, Chris, are you willing to fly down? I lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the time. And she said, hey, could you fly down to Kentucky to pick up some dogs? And I'm like, I get to go flying and play with dogs? Like, where do I sign? Like, this is great. Yeah. And, I really didn't know. I just kind of was like, sure, I'm happy to go do that. So flew down there, brought the dogs back, met the rescue, felt like a hero, right? They were so supportive, and everybody wanted to take their picture. And I was like, this is really cool. And so I did that for a number of years. I got connected with more organizations and did more and more transports. And eventually it got to the point where my name was getting shared, and I'd have people calling me like all the time. I'm like, I work a day job, right? I can't fly 7 days a week.
Yeah.
There needs to be a system where I can just say, here's where I am. Here's the days I'm available. Here's how far I'm willing to fly. And that's where the concept of Doobert was born. And as I was building it out and getting ready to launch it, that same rescue friend, she's like, it's great, Chris, that you're doing this for pilots, but could you also let drivers sign up? I'm like, why? I don't understand.
Oh, wow.
But she's like, the same problem happens with drivers. So now it's the only platform, and we connect the pilots and the drivers. So a rescue leg could be partially done on the ground and partially done on the air. And we've just continued to build it out. So it started with solving my own need, much like the people on my show, right? They solving your own problem and then realizing that there's others that have that need. And so it started there and then really has just kind of grown over the years.
Amazing. Amazing. Now, there are other types of ways that people can donate, help raise some money for shelters on this platform, right? You have a store.
Yeah, there's all sorts of new things. So for me, what I'm really excited, and one of the things for years that I've wanted to do is to not be a burden on rescues and shelters. I mean, software costs money, costs people, right? It takes money. And, I want to help bring them money because they need the money to be able to do more programs to save more animals. That's the goal. And so one of the things I've been working on for the last couple of years and just launched now is what we call our Doobert Forward store. And so the idea is really simple, right? You buy pet food just like I buy pet food, right? And a lot of people buy it online from your favorite retailer, and it's great. They ship it to your house and all is well. So we're doing the same thing, right? So Doobert now is an online e-commerce store. You can buy all your favorite pet foods and toys and all that other stuff. But
Wow.
the difference is Doobert is now going to pay 5% of your order to a local rescue or shelter that you choose. Right? I want you to pick the organization that you want to support. And they have to just be on Doobert. They have to sign up. So it's free.
Yeah.
But that way you're now giving to somebody, an organization in your local community.
Yeah.
And so it's something that was really important to me. And that's why it took us a while to program it and develop it. But you can literally choose which organization and, you order your stuff, we ship it to you, and then we will send them a PayPal of the 5% of your order. So you can order 100 times, 1,000 times, it doesn't matter. We really wanted this to become something that would pay it forward, right? Back to these organizations that really need your help. And there are other things that, Amazon Smile, but they pay 1/2 of 1%, right? We're paying 5%.
Okay. Oh,
So we're
wow.
really trying to change the game. On $100, Doobert's going to pay $5.
Yes.
So if I don't know about you, but I spend $100 a month easily on pet food. And so if my
yeah.
$5 every month is going to an organization, and if there's 10 other people like me, if there's 100 other people like me, you
Yeah.
can see it adds up really fast. And
Absolutely.
I'm hoping it'll really make a big difference because you're not doing anything different, right? We're going to do our best to be as price competitive with everybody else that's out there. And all you got to do is point your browser to us instead of to the other guys, and we're going to pay it forward.
Yeah. Great. In addition to food, what other types of things can pet parents look for on the Doobert Forward platform?
Yeah.
Store.
So food and treats are the big ones. And then there's obviously toys and stuff. And then what my plan is now that I've got it launched is to now expand it and to work with other brands and say, listen, I'd love to list that on the store. I'd love to have them on the store, whether it be clothing, whether it be accessories, make it so that people can pay it forward in their own community. So to me, this is just like the start, right? This is the launch. We started with something that everybody needs. They need pet food. But now where can we take this? How do we, I'm going to have a page on the store. It's one of the things we're working on where all the guests that I've had on my show that have a product, we're going to have as seen on the Animal Innovation Show. We're going to have a list. Yeah. So
that's great.
All those cool things, that of course they'll probably have their own website, but if I can highlight them and bring awareness and
it's a win-win for everybody.
Yep,
Yeah.
That's the idea. So I'm not limiting it to food by any means.
Yeah.
It's just now I want to start figuring out who else wants to work with us and believes in what we're trying to do to pay it forward back to the local shelter.
Wonderful. Please tell everyone listening where they can find this.
Yeah, so it's really easy. You just go to doobert.com, Doobert, doobert.com, or you can go to directly if you want to shop.doobert.com. But if you go to the homepage, there's a link that'll take you right there. Super simple. You'll be really familiar, right? You can shop for all the things you want, and the system will walk you through. It'll say, great, what organization are we paying it forward to? You pick that organization, and then we take care of the rest. And I'm excited to be able to do this to really, like I said, hopefully revolutionize and make a difference in all these rescues and shelters.
Yeah. And what's also really lovely is not only can you feel good about the money that you're spending shopping for your baby, but the face behind it, and you know the kinds of things that that person does, his heart, when it comes to these animals. So that, I think, is a major plus.
Yeah, I think I'm really glad you said that, Jody. The most important piece of this to me was to keep the money local, right? I have a lot of respect for brands that do support rescues and shelters, but oftentimes you don't know where your money's going. And so if you want to, a lot of people have friends and family that do rescue work, and it doesn't have to be specifically just rescue. I mean, it can be assistance dogs organizations or friends of shelters. Like, there's all sorts of groups that do amazing work, and we want to support them, and you want to support them. So we want you to be comfortable and choose, hey, I like this group. That's maybe where you adopted your dog or your cat from, and that's who you want to support. Totally fine with me. I'm not going to try and change your mind. I want that money to go to them. So that's probably the most important part of this for me, was to make sure that you had a choice in who you're paying it forward to.
Absolutely. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want people to know?
I don't think so. You did a great job covering it all. I'm just really excited. This has been something I've been working on literally for 2 years. And so it's so nice to finally see it come to life, and hoping that we'll continue to build it out.
Absolutely. And I have no doubt that you will, Chris. And, I will help you spread the word. Everybody listening, please give this platform a chance. You'll be doing a real blessing for these shelters and rescues and the animals that they care for. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Jody. I really appreciate the opportunity.
It's my pleasure. And thank you all for listening. Thanks to our producer, Mark Winter. Mark, you make us sound so good. We love you for that. My passion is living stylishly, animal rescue, and health. So tune in next time to discover the designers, home decor, rescue stories I love and want to share. So until next time, when fierce fashion calls, bark and swagger.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.